Student loan forgiveness is not inflationary, my friends. The thing that just frustrates more than anything on this whole stupid thing, and it's stupid, is people are all upset about the wrong reason, man. It just ticks me off. Yeah, I don't want to give it to a blue-haired SJW. I'm like, well, my daughter isn't blue-haired SJW. Your kid probably isn't too. Are there going to be some blue-haired SJWs? Yes. Well, that's so trite. Student loan, and then they're going to say, well, it's inflationary, man. You're going to create all this extra wealth for these kids and they have more to spend. Thus, it's inflationary. It's already been inflationary. When you created the debt, which went to the highfalutin of our society, the colleges and the administrators. It's not even the professors, it's the administrators. We have more money to hire more insane administrators. Those are the SJW types. And you want to blame these kids. The kids who are told, if you don't go to college, you're an ignoramus. If you don't go to college, you can't get a good job. If you don't go to college, blah, blah, blah. And so they're 18, 17, 18. Their own parents are telling them to do this. And then they go to college, they take on debt, and then now we're all mad at them. It just infuriates me. The whole point about this is if you're going to do it, you don't do it off the back of the taxpayer. This is where the anger should be. You don't say to the taxpayer, we're going to punish you because of our insanity on pushing the huckster of college education on everybody. You say, we're going to take it from the people who we inflated the value. Which is the colleges and their endowments. Man, it's so flippin' frustrating. The inflation has already been created. I talked about this guy over at, I think it's University of Michigan or University of Chicago. I think it was University of Michigan, maybe Ohio State. Some black guy, like $350,000. He's the head of diversity, inclusion, equity at University of Michigan or something like that. And there are 28 people underneath him, all making over $100,000. That's inflationary. Where'd that inflation come from? By creating the false money, because it's fake money, of student loans. It didn't come from freaking productive labor. And everyone wants to get mad at the freaking blue-haired kid. Look, man, it's insanity to me. If you don't go to college, you're ignoramus. Well, I went to college, I paid for it myself. Well, hell's bells, so did I, man. I went to college, went in the infantry. You know what I'm saying? And if you have the good fortune of not having to take student loans, why are you upset with people who did? I don't understand. Now, if they're, this whole thing's man, it's so frustrating. Yeah, but Josh, not only do they take student loans, they're bashing America. They're doing this. And I'm like, dude, do you not know how many freaking people when they're 18 are young and stupid, man? Come on. Gosh. I look back when I was 18 compared to who I am now. Hell, I look back to when I was 35 compared to who I am now. It's a whole different person. I just don't, the hostility at these young idiots, and they're dumb, man. They're ignorant. I don't want to say they're dumb. They just don't know how the world works. These people were told, you better go to college. Remember, it used to be 10, 15 years ago, and I can't believe it didn't get more traction. Law schools were under the gun for saying, the average guy who graduates, guy is all-inclusive, by the way, for 57 genders. The average person who graduated our law school is making $130,000 a year. It's all fraudulent, all fake. There's a couple schools that got called out, but other than that, just kind of went under the bridge, swept on the rug. And then the same thing with colleges. The average graduate who has an undergrad degree makes $80,000 a year, whereas the average guy who doesn't have an undergrad degree makes $40,000 a year. Thus, the idiots would say college is worth $40,000 an extra for income. The whole thing is it's corrupt as. And the reason we know is because the average graduate, does a doctor, is he an average graduate? Of course he is. A radiologist, an average graduate? Yes, he is. A plumber may not be an average graduate, but a person who is down on his luck, who didn't graduate, is thrown into the realm of the plumber. And the person who did graduate and is a blue hair freaking social justice warrior is thrown into the area of the doctor, the radiologist. So you can see a plumber making $120,000 a year is thrown into because he's not a grad, but someone who didn't graduate and is friggin' selling meth under the table, by the way, or whatever. I'm just using that for an example, who shows no income. So their average income is $40,000 a year. Whereas the SJW is making $40,000 a year, friggin' at Starbucks is thrown in with a radiologist who's making $500,000 a year. Thus, their average income is $270 or something like that. You see what I'm saying? That's how it works. It's so freaking stupid. It's so stupid. What they should do is just go the undergrad who did not go to grad school. There'll be some engineers in there, I grant you, but they'll take a lot of the doctors who are one of the highest paid professions out there out of the loop. Because the undergrad is all encompassing, man. It's everything, to include the doctors, to include the PhDs, to include the college professors, all this stuff. Anyway, so now we're going to say your mom, like Charlotte, she's like, I got to go to college. Now, thankfully, we live in Georgia, so the tuition, if you keep a certain GPA, is free. And the Zell Miller is free. So I got to pay for room and board. It ain't cheap. You know, downtown, Midtown Atlanta is $20,000 a year from Georgia Tech. Athens is about $10,000 a year. But I mean, room and board, you have to pay that anyway, man. You see what I'm saying? And I get it. Like, well, they're using the money to go to, I don't know, freaking protests. And now, do you know that? Do you know that? I mean, are there some idiots? Oh my goodness, yes, there are some idiots. Wow. My whole point isn't that forgiving student loan is a good or bad. My whole point is forgiving student loan, A, it's not inflationary because it's already been inflated by the insanity of how many administrators are in. Look at hospitals. Look at college facilities. The administrators are growing by leaps and bounds while students are not. And on top of that, professors are not as well, but the administrators are. That is inflationary. The inflation has already done. It's already happened. Now, we know what else causes inflation: your ability to take a loan and use that money to go buy other goods, to create the fake money. Well, again, as I've said a million times this Sunday, debt is inherently deflationary because debt stops you from borrowing more, creating more money. That's a fact. You know what else is deflationary? Your ability to say, you know something, I don't think I can pay this money back. I don't like the way the country's going. Like, this was happening in Japan, this was happening in China right now, and it's happening in the United States too because of good people like Dave Ramsey. I don't like the way this economy is going. I don't want to be saddled with a bunch of debt that I won't be able to pay back later on. So I'm not going to borrow, even if I have the ability to borrow. Just opening a line of credit, a credit card, does not inherently create inflation because unless someone actually uses the credit card, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And so a lot of people, I think, they're going to be they're going to say, yeah, I'm glad I got this debt underneath me. Now I'm not going to friggin' borrow because I don't want to be held accountable for that again. You see what I'm saying? Now, will a lot of people go right back to it? Yes, 100%. But again, that in and of itself is an inflationary. It's already been inflated by the initial creation of the debt, of the fake money. That people don't get this is nuts to me. And I would 100%, if I was God, I'd say, okay, yeah, we're going to waive all student loan debt, and we're going to take that, we're going to do a scenario, we're going to do a study. What universities left the most debt on the table? Not only for grads, mind you, but for people who dropped out as well. What universities have provided got the most student loan money from the federal government, and is now basically holding as indentured servants the people that pay that back, even though the people that pay that back aren't receiving any goods for it, if that makes sense. We'll say Temple University is picking on them. We'll say Temple University, you got $8 billion of student loan debt, or student loans over the last 2 years, and the vast majority of your employees are making X, Y, Z. I don't know what it is, but your vast majority of your graduates hell, again, it doesn't even have to be graduates. The vast majority of those people who took those debts are either they didn't graduate, or they graduated and they're working at Starbucks, whatever it would be. And we're going to say, because you keep going to the federal teat, we want some of that money back, and we're going to narrow your ability to borrow. Just like, they were doing for-profit institutions. They're saying, if you aren't showing some satisfactory results from your government-sponsored debt, we're going to turn the spigot off. They should do the same damn thing for these universities and watch how quickly these universities shape up. But no, this is where the Republicans get it wrong. This is where the Democrats get it wrong. Because no one wants to go out, because they're all making money off this stuff, man. The Democrats, the Republicans, everybody's making money off it. It's so frustrating. But be it as it may, and I got to tell you too, if you're a fortunate person enough to be able to pay your student loans without being enslaved to the friggin' man because you're able to pay your student loans by hook or by crook, I don't know. Instead of griping, just say, thankfully I was able to do that. Thankfully I had enough common sense to pay off my debt so I wasn't obligated to anybody. I just, I don't know. I just hear these people like, I did this, I did that. I said, man, I get it. You should be proud of yourself for doing that, as I am. I'm proud of myself for going to the infantry, 100%. I'm proud of myself for paying off my student debts, 100%. My Uncle John helped me out a little bit with student loan debts too. I think I had $10,000 left and he paid it off. And I'll forever be grateful to him, because you're always grateful to people who help you out. As long as it's one and done. As long as it's not a thing where people think, I deserve this debt forgiveness. You see what I'm saying? As long as it's one and done. My Uncle John stroked my check for the last $10,000 of student loans in 1998. I'll never forget that. And I started crying when he told me, man. We're sitting at my cousin's wedding up in Walnut Creek, California. My Uncle John says, we want to pay off your student loans. I said, are you kidding me? It's only $10,000, but Charlotte and I weren't making any money, dude. We had just moved to Phoenix. We had just got married. We weren't making scratch. That $10,000 was huge. Huge. And look where I am today. Was that all? I mean, would have I been able to get by without that? Sure. I'll never forget that. And when he forgave my debt, it was, man. And I started crying because I was like, it's such shock of the ability of not having to worry about that anymore. And that's what a lot of these people are going to be going through now. And I tell you, man, my daughter, we were able to pay all our side of Maddie's student loans because we've had a good couple of years, Charlotte and me, financially. Is that a bad thing? No, it's a good thing. I'm happy, I'm proud of it, I'm grateful, frankly, more than anything. I'm grateful for God's abundance. And if you're able to pay your debts, you should be grateful too. Yeah, you should be hostile about this. What they're doing is by the taxpayer, because you're like, man, I paid my debts and I got to pay for other people's debts. When there's a big group of people who are getting by. But you should also be grateful that you're able to pay yours off. I just find it, there is something very, humility can go a long way sometimes. Hey, I'm just yapping. All right, we'll see you.